All of creation is now tainted because of the decision of Adam.
Welcome to the weekly recap and anchor point discussion starter, where we play back part of this week's message and share questions you can use to discuss with your family, friends, or small group. The purpose of anchor points is to pray for one another, share God's word together, and to spend time in fellowship building relationships. You can do that anywhere at any time. So here is this week's clip.
I had a very interesting realization this week after reading this. That all sin that is in our lives and throughout the Bible, what is described as sin, is when we try to replace God or fill God's role in our lives with something else, or someone else, or even put ourselves in a place of where we're trying to do God's job. Despite God being the one who defines what is good, what is evil, I want us to keep in mind that Satan never changes his tactics. God has set the standard, and yet Satan oftentimes is trying to get us to take that standard and change it. If you don't believe me, just look at the 7 deadly sins. Now, these 7 deadly sins aren't listed in the Bible. Not specifically like these are the 7 deadly sins, but church tradition has taken these things and said they are clearly outside of God's design. The first one is this: pride. And like I said, don't forget, what we see here is that each and every one of us, when we fall into these traps of sin, we're actually trying to replace what God has provided us with our own version of it. And pride is the first one. It's because we praise ourselves when God is the only one worthy to be praised. Greed. We think we know how much we need, but the reality is God is the provider, and He knows what provisions we need. Lust. We seek physically to please ourselves outside of God's design of marriage. Envy, wanting what we lack, thus ignoring the truth God has given us everything we need. Gluttony. We try to sustain ourselves by overdoing it, yet God is the one who promises to be our sustainer. Wrath. We want to execute judgment, even though God is the one who is a just judge. And then sloth. We abuse rest and avoid productivity in the name of restoration, when the reality is we should rest weekly in God for renewal. So when the serpent spoke to Eve, he tempted her with this idea of being equal with God, being able to understand good and evil, and maybe even able to take and make your own version of it. That is the tactic that Satan still uses today. If I am mopping, and I say, hey, can you help me bring me the water? Who's the one that's still doing the mopping? Me. See, the reality is, Adam was still supposed to be the one doing the protecting. So Eve was not the one to take care of the garden, Adam was. So with it being his responsibility to care and to work in the garden, it was also his job to make sure no one touched the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Because God gave that command to who? Adam. But it was Eve's job to help him. But if you don't believe me about who's at fault, wait until later in this message. We're going to actually look at passages all the way in the New Testament that directly point to whose responsibility it all was. We look at the New Testament, God's Word, and understand that God has made men and women equal. That Jesus treated men and women with equal value. We begin to understand that what is happening in Genesis isn't a separation of value, because Jesus paid the same price for men and women alike. His life for both men and women was given. In Genesis, we don't see a difference of price, but a difference in function, a difference in role. We see that God starts out His plan for humanity starting right here in Genesis. Men and women are meant to be in a partnership and work together. That's why He explains that the two become one. If you notice, Eve's punishment reflected her failure to not help her husband, and then she was then given motivation to forever have to seek his guidance. Adam's punishment reflected what Adam was created for as well. God decided to curse Adam with the very things he failed at: caring for the garden and working. Both these things now are so much worse. Genesis 3:17 through 19. To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. So because Adam did not lead, his wife instead led him, he is now going to see this curse. Cursed is the ground because of you, meaning all of creation is now tainted because of the decision of Adam taking the fruit. The creation that God put in there to take care of was now broken. Meaning that Jesus' sacrifice did not just cover the sins of Adam. It covers the sins of you and I.
Hey guys, Pastor Trevor again. Just wanted to remind you how important it is for you guys to spend time together reading God's Word. When you do this, it gives you the opportunity to be able to share with one another, be able to help each other understand, be able to ask questions together, do all these things. Take time, whether it's on your phone or whether it's on your physical Bible, or I've got the scripture is actually going to pop up on the next screen if you want to just pause it there and take time to read it together there. Reading God's Word together is a crucial part of our anchor points, of our small groups, of family time together, spending time learning about God. So take a minute to do that, and then you can get back into the video. Hey guys, Pastor Trevor here. I'm just looking over my notes from this past week with the message on the epic fail of Adam, and how his failure to not only obey, but to fulfill the purpose that God had given him. It really messed things up, not only for himself, but all of creation. And as I'm looking over the notes and remembering the points from the week and how we need to take responsibility and remember that God's commands are something to take seriously, and also that our actions do have consequences. I reflect on my own life and times that I have failed and how I've needed to take responsibility for that. And so for your questions this week, I was thinking maybe you could share times when you've had to take responsibility for mistakes that you've made. And that being the first question for you guys to discuss. And then the second one really relies heavily on the third point, which is the good news. And when I say the good news, I mean the good news, the gospel, to know that God can redeem me and my failures. What is something in your life that still needs redeeming? What is something in your life that you need to give to God, or you'd like to give more to Him? Take a step closer to Him in that area. Go ahead and share those with your group this week, as well as looking over the passage. I actually, rather than using the passages I preached on, I've included the passage that I read at the end of the message for you all to read and to dive into your discussion questions in regards to that passage. And so I hope you guys have a great week. I hope this is a great opportunity for you to share with people around you, small groups, family members, however you're watching this video, and to be able to discuss God's Word together. So you guys have a great week. We look forward to seeing you next week. We love you, and peace out.